OnePlus brings back the T variant, and recently I was reminded that T actually stands for turbo. Okay, that makes sense, but things in this latest OnePlus smartphone feel a little bit different. So let's talk through it. It's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Here are some thoughts after my first week with the OnePlus 10T. A lot of this video was filmed using the OnePlus 10T, so you can kind of look at this as a bit of a camera test. But because I decided to mostly censor the vlog bits around the journey of heading to New York City for the official launch event, which is where I am right now, I'm not going to give too many opinions or pixel peep on the pictures and videos. I'll make sure to label everything accordingly and just let you enjoy. You can let me know your thoughts on the cameras of the OnePlus 10T in the comments. Look forward to more content by hitting the like button and by subscribing and ringing the bell for notifications. A couple of specs on the cameras right now. There is no telephoto lens in this package, so anything that is 2x is digitally cropping into the image coming from the main sensor. Also, both the front-facing camera and the wide shooter aren't capable of 4K video recording. At first glance, the OnePlus 10T looks a lot like its non-T variant. The camera bump is a large, square strip coming from the left, and the sparkly matte backing is a mix of business and playful. My unit did come with a couple of cases, but it was a pleasant surprise to find a glacier matte case that has been made for the 10T. Now, if you don't remember, it's a special case that is supposed to provide better cooling because of the materials on the inside of the case and then airflow via the slits on the back. It's something that I did actually cover not too long ago for the Oppo Find X5 Pro. Ultimately though, it provides a really nice textured feel, which is likely the main reason why I've been keeping it on my device. Well, that and the gray and red contrasting colors. Again, the Glacier Matte case is an Oppo original, and if you're raising your eyebrows because of that added and almost overt influence of Oppo onto OnePlus, well, prepare to do it more. As we take the case off, we can look around the frame, and this glossy frame is missing a key feature. Not the headphone jack, that's been removed a long time ago. I'm talking about the alert slider. That's right, a brand differentiator is actually missing on here, perhaps fueling the speculation that OnePlus is becoming more and more like Oppo with every passing generation. The launch event that I'm traveling to in the camera test bits of this video included a talk with key OnePlus figures, who all reassured us that the alert slider will return eventually. But we were also given the reason that space in the smartphone could be saved by removing the alert slider, so that was a choice that they made for now. Take that for what you will. Alright, as I'm getting into New York City and starting to see some old friends for the first time in a while, let's talk about the internals. After all, they're basically the reason why the T variant has returned. So if T stands for turbo, OnePlus wanted to make sure that this phone was high performing. So we get the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 in here, ready for all of the multitasking via 16GB of RAM in my particular unit, and gaming supported by gaming mode features, enhanced cooling internals, and of course, the Glacier Matte case. As you might already think after seeing some of the camera samples, this phone is all about daily use, media consumption, and really gaming more than anything else. You could almost call this a gaming phone, but personally, I probably wouldn't go quite as far as that, given what a full-on gaming phone can look and feel like. Anyway, performance has not been an issue whatsoever on this phone. Not only have I been able to get pretty deep into Gwent Rogue Mage with ease, I was also impressed by its daily mobile internet reliability. Pretty much immediately upon inserting my Google Fi SIM in here, I was seeing 5G up here consistently, and I was easily downloading a few extra apps in the terminal right before my flight here. I also downloaded a few episodes of Spy Family and Crunchyroll really easily. That's not usually the easiest feat to accomplish in a super congested airport terminal network. Now, by and large, the daily use case scenario of some social media, some gaming, browsing, reading news stories, and maybe some camera use was moving along super smoothly, especially on this AMOLED display that might be Full HD Plus resolution, but it does support 120Hz in the refresh rate. And finally, on the speed front, OnePlus makes sure that T really stands for turbo when it comes to charging. It's officially branded Super VOOC charging now, so the Oppo influence continues once again, but in the box with the phone is a 160-watt fast charger. That sounds pretty insane, and it kind of is, but of course, fast charging is a really practical thing to have on days when you forget to charge before a long stretch and need to power in a hurry. Now, the OnePlus 10T will support 150-watt charging outside of the US via the Endurance Edition, and in the US, it'll top out at 125 watts. That's still a full charge in like 20 or so minutes. I have to give props to a phone that can get back into fighting shape in a hurry, especially if it doesn't really let up in performance in the first place on the way to the charger. I'm always going to complain when a camera can't do 4K video recording, like the front-facing camera. The rear cameras, no matter what resolution you're at though, I will admit, stabilization is pretty good. If you want to watch some other shit about this phone, watch his video.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for the plug.
Link above and below.
I really wish the camera on this phone would be better.
I'm glad I got that on audio, because I feel that way. Well, no, really, because like in a situation like this, you would hope like a wide angle in a place like Grand Central Station would be able to do it justice.
It just doesn't.
It just doesn't. Okay, finally I'll go ahead and talk about the camera hardware. Despite the Hasselblad partnership that we saw in the OnePlus 10 Pro, you'll notice that there is none of that branding here, and the camera doesn't have those extra modes or that interesting shutter sound. You can argue that that's another removal of OnePlus differentiators. What I find a bit more egregious than that though, is how the cameras here feel much more like Oppo offerings I've seen recently. Now, don't get me wrong, the main sensor is a good performer. The IMX766 is here bringing 50 megapixels and pretty good image quality with all of the HDR enhancements that OnePlus put in here as potentially inspired by the Hasselblad partnership. But then you go to the wide sensor and it drops heavily, down to 8 megapixels. And again, it can't do 4K video recording, which is always going to be a sticking point for me. Not to mention the mechanics in the camera app are needlessly cumbersome as a result. In order to even access the wide camera in video, you have to change the resolution. But then, if you want to go back to 1x, it stays at 1080p and you have to actively go back to 4K again. For the fact that the quality is uneven across these cameras, that just feels like way more work than it's worth. Anytime me and this guy are together, it's always got to get food, always got to eat like crazy. So you're about to see that happen. For the rest of this section, I'm going to go vertical because I'm hoping to post this on social media because we're at a really special ramen spot now. This is already a completely different experience to any ramen shop I've ever been to, and the ramen here is supposed to be just like classic taste, all of that, but the experience is very unique. I was never able to go to the Ichiran in Tokyo, even though I've been there 3 times. So it's one of those ramen experiences that people tell you is the quintessential. I was never able to do it, but here in New York City, I have, thanks to this guy. Top tip, if you ever go to Japan or you go to a ramen spot, slurping means it's good, and it's actually a compliment to the chef. Now, pictures coming from the cameras are decent enough in good lighting situations, as you'd expect from most mid to high level smartphones. Just like with a lot of phones that I've been seeing recently, you're just going to be using that main sensor more than any of the other ones. In lower light situations, you do have a night mode. It is available, but video suffers accordingly because of the lower light. I did try my hand at some long exposure shots with Enrique Villacrez as my model, but I guess I'm just not great at that style of shooting. Thanks anyway though, buddy. Oh, and there's also a 2 megapixel macro lens, because of course there is. Anything to say that there are more sensors on a camera, but I guess at this point it's kind of at the expense of the alert slider. At the end of the day, or week in this case, there are reasons to like the OnePlus 10T, but they basically have nothing to do with the camera. It might be a bit of a cynical way of looking at things, but perhaps the OnePlus 10T, or really any OnePlus device recently and in the near future, is going to mirror what Oppo usually offers in other markets outside of the US. OnePlus is starting to feel like the vehicle behind which Oppo can actually sell something much like the Find or Reno series, but in the United States. I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but as a OnePlus fan for quite some time, I guess I just expect a little bit more. You get more with the Turbo variant. Certainly very practical things like reliable fast charging and performance that can withstand any workflow or play session, but the creator in me isn't impressed by these cameras. The same way I've been losing some excitement over similar hardware packages that are coming out of China anyway. Perhaps now more than ever, the latest offering from OnePlus seems targeted towards a specific type of user. Now, whether or not you might call that kind of user a gamer or not, well, it's up to them. And anyone outside of that niche should probably look elsewhere. Even if the base model at 8GB of RAM does start at a pretty good price of $649, which is decent, and with availability at major retailers, well, this phone could very well be on your radar. Alright, that's 1 week with the OnePlus 10T. I did bring it with me to the official launch event here in New York City, and I wanted to include some of that event in this video as well. But look forward to further content on this device, including what worked and what didn't. So look forward to those upcoming videos. But with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.